with the goal of getting her housemate to pick up after herself in the kitchen, and in turn promote world peace. She got out of bed, put on her socks, and went into the kitchen while trying to recall the details of a particularly vivid and confounding dream that had come upon her in the night.
Rachel, her roommate, was already up, awake, and making tea on the first morning of the first day of the new year. She was thinking about the dawn of an unnamed future when she would finally be in the position to become a dog owner. Today wasn't that day, but she had high hopes for the future. As Lydia entered, she wished her good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Happy New Year, she said, although they'd already wished it to each other a lot the night before over champagne toasts and balloon drops, but she liked the way the words strung together, so she said it again. Happy New Year.
You too, said Lydia, although she hardly felt it. It had been said enough the night before, and she really resented redundancies.
Resolutions?
Yes, said Lydia, while trying to think of a tactful way to approach the subject, but decided that tact was not a part of this particular resolution. I have resolved to get you to pick up after yourself in the kitchen while promoting world peace.
But I do clean up after myself.
Why is there popcorn all over the floor? There's a cupcake pan been soaking on the counter for a week, and there are half a dozen tea bags molding on the windowsill.
Oh, those aren't mine.
I don't like popcorn. The cupcake pan appeared while I was away on vacation, and you know perfectly well that I hate Earl Grey.
Oh, she was offended but tried not to show it. So what does this have to do with world peace?
Clean up and you'll see.
Meanwhile, Jillian, a woman of questionable means and good intentions, stood on a nearby street corner, singing songs of great sorrow, with the dual hope of spreading a new kind of beauty into the hearts of her neighbors, as well as possibly earning some spare change. Her hat had been out for close to an hour, but remained decidedly empty.
En route to the grocery store, Lydia passed the street corner on which Jillian stood, singing songs of great sorrow. The melodic beauty of her voice and the passion with which she sang brought Lydia to a halt.
She noticed her at once. Jillian wanted to stop and ask her name, but was sure that the minute she stopped singing, she would leave. Jillian never wanted the woman to leave, so she was determined never to stop singing.
Lydia decided to continue to the grocery store at the end of the next song. But one song gave way to the next. And that song gave seamless way to the next. And with that song transitioning so smoothly to the next tune, Lydia realized that if she waited for the end of the singing, she would be standing on the street corner forever, which was not only inconvenient, but cold, lonely, she took the singer by the hand and led her home.
John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton, head baker of John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton International, was not a crook. He had, in fact, participated in only one small, single illegal event over the course of his 62 years upon this earth, and that one small, single illegal event had nothing to do with money. John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton was an exceedingly wealthy man, and had only that morning resolved, for better or for worse, to use the entirety of his equity to install peace in the world. How he's going to go about doing this, he had no idea, but he had a plan. Karen.
Karen was his servant, housekeeper, barista, secretary, and tutor to his 10-year-old niece. But above all else, she was brilliant. She addressed him in the typical fashion in which a servant, housekeeper, barista, secretary, and tutor addresses their respective employers.
Yes.
I have a question about world peace.
Would that be in the abstract, conditional, superficial, metaphorical, or substantively universal sense, sir?
The latter.
All right, and what was your question?
How might I go about buying it?
How much are you willing to spend, sir?
Everything. He had decided that a long time ago. All of it. Minus 20 years living expenses for me and a nice little bonus for the both of us.
20 years, sir?
Better make it 30. His health was in no state reasonably expectable to be another 30 years upon this earth, but he supposed that life expectancy was sure to increase drastically in the environment of a peaceful world, so he chose to err on the side of optimism.
Well, so with your assets, I think the first step would be to identify a singular voice that the people could rally behind.
Wonderful! Can you do that for me?
Certainly, she responded, and then left the room as quickly as possible, deeply puzzled at the task she'd unwittingly set herself on this, the first morning of the first day.
Rachel, in a gesture of goodwill and new beginnings, had just disposed of the popcorn and the pan and the moldy tea bags from the kitchen when Lydia entered with a singing Jillian.
Isn't she wonderful? Lydia asked, and in a moment of pure spontaneous joy, began to sing along with Jillian in perfect harmony.
Rachel stood in the kitchen, a witness to this marvelous song of beauty. What brilliant people, she said. And she ran through the house, opening all the windows and the doors so that their voices could much easily waft into the airwaves and thus into the ears and hearts of their neighbors.
At that very moment, Karen was approaching the very corner where Lydia first encountered Jillian. She herself was on the way to the grocery store because John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton was out of tea. As she rounded the corner, she heard the faintest of melodies, beautiful and sad. It entered her left ear and settled in her heart at once. She felt at peace. This, she thought, was the voice that John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton was seeking, and she, without further hesitation, she set out to find it.
In the spirit promoting world peace, John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton decided it was time to make peace with his own ghosts. He turned to where he was sure they'd always been hiding and proclaimed, "I forgive you." And in a sudden rush of wind, they departed, and John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton took pleasure in knowing that they were at last truly free. In celebration, he poured himself another cup of tea and began to daydream of what his first adventure would be in the soon-to-be newly peaceful world.
As Karen approached the origin of the singing, she sensed
mother. Her mother was so moved that she added a fourth remote voice from the apartment she was living with her son-in-law's cousin, who in turn called his sister, who in turn called her daughter, who was the best friend of the 10-year-old niece of John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton.
When the 10-year-old niece of John Jacob O'Reilly Smitherton called him, she was already singing. He could hear Karen's voice through the trail of phone calls and at once burst into song himself.
Over the entire state, and by that night it had spread to all the furthest and most remote corners of the earth, where leaders and sinners sang side by side, harmonies perfect and imperfect, in time and out of time, but all with a single unifying purpose. And so it was that by the time the 11 billionth voice had joined in, such was the fury and beauty of the song that nobody heard when I stopped singing.
Or when I stopped singing.
And nobody noticed as we quietly crept away to begin our adventures in a newly peaceful world.
So my whole family just left. I didn't believe it. My son-in-law and my dad. So that's me kicking all the time, but I'm going to be around.
Yeah, I don't see shots in all these shots.
After camp.
Yeah. I see shots. I know. I know.
What song was this? No, this one.
Pretty cool.
Oh.
All right, campfire. Let's go quick. Oh, sorry. Happy to be here.